Everybody say that they know me, they own me. See me on the cover of a Vogue and they clone me. We cannot be friends cause I like being lonely. I'm a boss, tell them not today. Swerving on these chickens, cluck out my lane. I'm a boss.
All right, so I have Jackie as a guest on the show today. Jackie, can you tell us, first of all, how do you pronounce your last name? I was going to say it, and I was like, I don't want to butcher that. I'm really bad at butchering people's last names. So say it for me, and then tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no, it's fine. My last name is pronounced Kossoff.
Okay, that was my guess. I would have got it right.
Yeah, no, and everybody, people try to pronounce it really different, interesting ways. Some people add letters to it. It's really funny, actually. But no, it's pretty simple. It's just as if you were to cut it in, not in half, but like the Kos and then off.
Yeah. It's exactly how it's spelled. That's usually the reason I butcher things is because I look at it, I'm like, well, it looks like Kossoff, but it's like nothing to do with it. I'm like, okay, I don't know where they got that from. That's fine. So I figured usually if you see a last name that's not the typical kind of last name, it's pronounced, different. And that's the reason yours is okay. Kossoff. That's easy. So, so tell us a little bit about what you do. I know that you, we had a discussion kind of off air and you told me a little bit, but I want our listeners to kind of know a little bit about what you do and who you are.
Yeah, of course. So I am a marketing strategist and success coach. I have kind of two businesses under my umbrella. So I have my marketing agency, which specializes in Facebook ads, and we've been scaling rather quickly in recent months. I have a team of 6 right now, so that's pretty exciting. And then in my coaching business, I started coaching women who wanted to build their own marketing agencies and really learn how to scale those and, intentionally and sign clients while intentionally building their marketing agencies. Because I think that there's really specific obstacles and challenges and also opportunities and advantages that you have when you're building a marketing agency versus another type of online business. And so I personally, and I know I struggled a little bit in the beginning with, with how to build my agency, how to build intentionally, how to scale, like what do I do? What does that look like? And, a lot of the coaches that I worked with, they were amazing coaches and they helped me with other things, but they just had no idea how to build a marketing agency. And so when I got a little more established, I, started thinking, I need to help others who are in my position because, because if I had someone coaching me through it, I felt like I would have been able to get results so much faster and save myself a lot of months of, hardship, I guess you could say, relatively speaking, and just, fun stuff like that. But yeah, so it's been pretty amazing. And my clients the results my clients have experienced has been like, it's even surprised me. I'm like, wow, okay, yeah. So this does, like my idea was like viable. It's definitely been really great so far. So.
And I'd say that I'm involved. A lot of people that listen already know this, that I'm involved in marketing, and I have a marketing company. But it's funny because we work with lots of other marketing companies. Because the funny thing about marketing, and much to your point of saying it's a lot different than a lot of other types of companies, is just because of the fact that marketing is. All businesses are ever changing, but marketing is. Literally like second by second ever changing because, the market is so fickle. And not only is it so fickle because we all just kind of change our minds. Me personally, I used this as an example the other day when I was talking to a client because she's like, well, I've been doing this for years and now it's just not working. And I said, think about it. I said, okay, how long have you lived in your house? And she told me, I said, okay, well, how many different colors have you had your walls, or how many different, curtains have you had, or how many this? I said, I know me personally, I'll fall in love with a color and everything that has that color. And then give me a few years later and I absolutely hate that color. I don't even want to look at it. I don't want it in my house. You know what I mean? And that's just because that's how the market is. And ever changes based on just people's opinions. It changes based on, other things that are happening. Like right now, obviously we're in the middle of the quarantine shutdown for COVID, and, the market is upturned in a lot of ways. Yeah. And, it's challenging in some ways, but it's also, it's an opportunity in so many other ways. And it's just trying to find what that opportunity is. And, I think that, with marketing, even if you're not in the marketing industry and you just have your own small business, a lot of business owners, try to do a lot of their own marketing, which is fine at the beginning, you're bootstrapping it all. But it's hard for professionals. I mean, literally as soon as you get out of, college, or if you did a certification program or whatever, literally as soon as you get done, it's almost irrelevant, because it's already changed. You know what I mean? It's already changed so much by the time you're done. So it's either, we have to keep on top of it. And there's no way that even as marketing professionals that we can know all of it, because like I said, if it's changing every second, there's like millions of different things within the marketing industry, we can't know it all. Yeah. So, I work a lot with a lot of marketing professionals, and this is what I try to explain to people all the time is, you're trying to do it by yourself. Professionals have to rely on other people to help them as well, and this is what, we do. So, I mean, I think that, being able to come up with a program like you were mentioning, that you're able to help a lot of these professionals or a lot of these business owners with some professional work. I think that's awesome. Can you explain a little bit about the program and, how it's been working?
Yeah. So I just want to be clear. So my coaching program or the agency side?
Yeah, on the coaching program. Yeah, the coaching program.
Yeah. So I work with mainly, all my clients so far have been women. So I work with women who are starting out in building their marketing agencies. So usually they're in the first year in business. It was funny, when I first started, I thought I was going to be working with a lot of people who were still in the 9-to-5, but all my clients have actually already left the 9-to-5. So but they're usually in their first year. They're, thinking about building, getting more clients, but they're really in that foundational stage and really looking to figure out what their I think kind of what their message is going to be. Because, I think as marketers, and this is something that I talk with my clients about, usually during our first call, a lot of times with marketers, we have a difficult time marketing ourselves, especially in the beginning. And it can take us a really long time to figure out what that is. I know it took me over a year, like a year and a half to, even really figure out how I was going to market myself. Like I had been in business. I'd only been in business for 6 months when I really started focusing on Facebook ads, but I didn't even start telling people that was my specialty until a year later. Yeah. So, and so it's just kind of like I help my clients realize, okay, like, listen, if you're going to focus on something right now, like choose something to focus on. It doesn't have to be what you focus on like next year. You can totally change it up. You can totally switch it up. But right now we want to focus our marketing so that we can get you ideal clients who are going to be a good fit to work with you now. And I think that, every single client that you get is going to help you grow in some way, shape, or form, whether that's with your business, whether that's with your skills, whether that's marketing skills, communication skills, interpersonal skills. And so I really think of business also as kind of a personal development journey. And every single person you work with, every single client is going to assist you in some way, hopefully a positive way, but, even working with some difficult clients can really actually, benefit your business. And I know me personally, some of my most difficult clients have enabled me to learn lessons that have actually helped me build my business and expand so much faster than I feel like I would have been able to without those challenging experiences. So it's really just for me, with my clients, if you want to get into nitty gritty, it's like a 3-month program with the option to extend to 6 months if you feel like you need that extra support. But really, it's just making those foundations to your business so that you're not kind of going crazy, trying all these different things. Because one of the things I find with marketers, I did this myself, I feel like most of my clients do this, is we always try new things. We always make these new strategies for ourselves. And then we're like, because we know it, right? And it's fun for us. And we're like, oh yeah, I could totally do that for myself. And then we go create it, but it's like our business might not be ready for that. and so
there's a lot of people that fall into that. I've heard it over and over.
Yeah, no, and that was my problem for, and I don't want to say it's a problem. That was kind of my pattern, I guess you could say, for the, definitely for the first year and a half of my business. And I think that for me, it's really helping my clients gain focus and clarity so that they can actually work toward their goals and actually figure out what their goals are. Because I know that I feel like in the online space especially, and this goes for all industries, I feel like, there's just so much, we're constantly seeing things that other people and other businesses are doing. And yeah, it looks really cool and it might look like super shiny and beautiful and wonderful. And we would want that for ourselves. But like the thing is like, do we really want that? And does that strategy really work for the type of business that we're building? Or
our own personality? I know I fall into that. And I know we talked off air, just about, you're a lot younger than I am. I'll admit that. You're a lot younger than I am. And it took me a lot longer. We were talking off air just about how, it took her, this long to learn her lessons, and she's younger than me. She's learned a lot of the lessons way, 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 way sooner than I did. And, which is a good thing. And, I'm definitely the learn the hard way type of person. I'm stubborn, I'm super energetic. I'm, I jump in just like I'm the bright and shiny person. I'm like, oh, that looks good. Let's try that. Ooh, let's do some of that. Ooh, that would be good, And of course, I have background in marketing, so I know everything about marketing, of course. So, I can't fail. And so, I sprinkle a little of this and sprinkle a little of that. And you hit the nail on the head when you said that we're so close to it, especially, that people within marketing usually market themselves terribly. I mean, terribly, because of that fact that we know almost too much about all the things that could work. And so we try too many things and we don't give it long enough. We have really, really short attention spans on giving it long enough to work because we know what the analytics should look like. We know what the analytics could look like. And if it doesn't look like that fast enough, we just jump. We don't give it time. But it's funny that, the advice that we would give, a coaching client or, an agency client would be, well, this takes time, because it does. We know it takes time, but within our own personal stuff, we want that instant gratification, or I know that's been my experience.
Yes, no, that's exactly, yes, that's like everything. I feel like I have that conversation with all my clients during our first call. And I think that that's something, it's not necessarily unique to marketers, but I think marketers, we're just like, since we know all the strategies and we know what it should look like, we're just like, when it doesn't look like that, we're just like, okay, well, this isn't going to work. So let's move on to the next thing. And we really don't give it time, like at all. No. And, it really wasn't until I actually did start giving it time and I actually chose one thing. I was like, okay, this is the strategy that I'm going to do. And literally in like 2 months, I was becoming booked with clients and, needing to, find other people to, subcontractors to hire onto my team to help out with the workload. So it can, once you find things to like that click into place, like once you find like the strategy that's working for you, things can happen really fast.
And that's how you're on the right path. And that's what I tell people too. It has to align with, your own life, first of all. It has to align with your priorities and your values just within your life, whatever your plan is. It needs to, because some of these people will make these and I was some of those people sometimes, make these elaborate plans that's going to take like 15 hours a day, but they don't have 15 hours a day to devote to it. So is that actually going to be a feasible, viable plan? Absolutely not. So it's sometimes it's better to think about, you have to think about your life. You have to think about your business, think about your own personality. Because if you try to go kind of against the grain on those things, you may be able to keep up with it for a bit, but it's just not going to work for you long term because, it's not your ideal thing. And it's the same thing you were mentioning about hard clients, not every client or customer, depending on what business you're in, is the right one for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lesson that you learn, because especially early on, it's just like, oh, you want to pay me? Okay.
Yeah. Like,
absolutely. Yeah. So, but then you figure out after time that, not every personality type meshes well, and it doesn't mean they're bad or you're bad or whatever, but it just means that that's not the right fit for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that is that ideally, once you start to get enough people and you end up with, you mentioned you have a team, you end up with people on your team, you're able to kind of match personality types a lot more. And I think that's, that's where the game starts to change a little bit, and as being able to pick that who you're going to work with, and being able to, be able to pick out your ideal person.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I definitely think that, I just want to share this because this was something that really just helped things click for me, right at the very, I guess, beginning of my growth period, at like when things really started getting exciting in my marketing agency. I was working with a coach, and we were talking about something, and we were actually on a group call. It was a small group program. It was literally just me and one other person. And, we were talking about, previous clients, and, like both of us had, been talking about difficult clients that we had been working with. And our coach just, she stopped us, and she was like, okay, so she was like, it seems like you're too afraid to get new clients because you're both, like, we were both going through the same thing. It's kind of funny, like when you go into these group programs and you're all going through the same thing, even if it's just you and one other person. And, and so she was like, it seems like you're both too afraid to get new clients because you're afraid that it's not going to work out. And here's the thing that I want you to know. I want you to know that you're going to sometimes work with people who suck. Like, you're going to work with people who are not dream clients. They're not like your ideal clients. And yeah, they might say bad things about you. She's like, but that's business. She's like, I've had people, who think my coaching is terrible, and who think that I'm a terrible coach, and who might be telling other people right now that I'm a terrible coach and that I ruined their business or whatever. And she's like, but that's not my problem. Like, right now, like what I'm doing, I'm giving you a service, I'm spending my time, etc. And that's what you're doing too, and so you are giving them a service. They are paying you for the time and the services, the efforts, that you're putting in to serving them. And whether or not like they get the results that they desire, whether or not those are good results or bad results or whatever kind of results that they originally wanted, and however they, may react to you or respond to you in like, as a side effect of that, like, it's not your problem. And so I think that, that was just really, that was really important for me to understand, like, that, like, I'm going to get some bad clients in business, you know what I mean? And that's just business. Like, you're not going to love every single one of your clients. And, and you're just going to have to learn how to do it. And, another thing that she said, she was like, have you survived those previous bad client experiences? Yes. You've survived, you're still here. So you can do it again, and just, take the time to figure out what you've learned from it and how you want to help this, how you want to make this into an opportunity rather than, like a quote unquote a failure. And those were just two lessons that I think were incredibly profound in my journey, because I do believe that I was hiding for a while because I was just so afraid of finding a bad client, or, who wasn't going to, who either wasn't going to understand, the marketing that I was trying to do for them. Because I've had that before. I've had people think that the results that we got were not good enough for them, and, things like that. And so for me, it was really just understanding, like, that's business, that's life. Like, you're just going to work with some people who are going to expect the world, and, you're just one person. Like, I'm like, don't get me wrong. I would love to make all my clients millions of dollars, but that's just not necessarily going to happen every day, especially because they're all starting out with different resources, and it's their own resources that are going into their business. And so for me, it was learning, like, I cannot like my clients can blame me. I cannot blame myself. Right.
And that's hard. I mean, that is a hard lesson. I mean, I can remember, people, I want to be liked. Like I pretend like I don't care, I do. And I kind of waver back and forth even still. Like, I don't care what they think. I don't care what people think.
Yeah,
but
same. Yeah.
Sometimes it stings. I mean, it does,
Oh, yeah.
and because it's, I know from my end that anything that I do, that I pour everything into it. And like you said, you can't always, especially in marketing, there's no way to ensure results. There's just not.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No. And oh my gosh. Don't even get me started with Facebook ads. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, it's luck of the draw.
Oh yeah, no, literally with I say this with everything, with every marketing campaign, there's no results. And, I get on calls with people all the time for Facebook ads and, and they're like, well, what can you guarantee me? And I'm like, I can guarantee you absolutely nothing. Like, I can guarantee that you're going to be paying Facebook for running these ads. Like, that's about all I can guarantee. And unfortunately, there are other marketers out there who have guaranteed people results. And, everyone that I've talked to, the people guaranteeing the results haven't been able to produce those results. And that's why they're coming to me. And then if they expect guaranteed results, I'm not giving them that. And so then they'll move on to someone else who, may or may, until they find someone who's going to quote unquote guarantee them, results. And unfortunately, it's just, it's something that used to really upset me a lot. But now, I just kind of honestly, my heart goes out to all the people who are looking for guarantees, because there's really no guarantee in marketing, in business, in life, even,
Exactly.
I think, all these people who are now unfortunately out of work because of the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. They were not expecting this. This was completely, unexpected. I mean, I know my roommate was furloughed for a while. She actually just got the news yesterday that, they're going to be bringing people back. So that's awesome. Like, I'm so happy for her, but that was a complete, shock to her. She was just she had this secure job, right? She was used to having this income, and then all of a sudden it was gone, literally just within the span of a week.
And that's your puppy. Your puppy's singing.
That's our dog. Us. Yes. So there's I hear some sirens out there, so he's just kind of going.
He
crazy.
Wants to join. Yeah, he wants to join in.
He wants to join in with all the excitement, whatever's going on. So
that's funny. I posted a video on Facebook the other day that my children were doing that. So I'm in there, and it's like, for some reason, like I don't know what's wrong with my kids, but all these people's kids, they're like, my kids are asleep until noon, until 12:30, and my kids get up before the sun gets up. So I'm like trying to stay up at night to get my work done, because, I have a lot of children and I'm supposed to be homeschooling them, which that's been questionable. I really disappointed that they're not going back to school, because I'm pretty sure they're all going to be illiterate now because of me, because I'm not a teacher. But, so anyway, I've been doing my work in the middle of the night, and so I was exhausted, and I'm in there, I'm pouring myself a cup of coffee, and my kids decided they wanted to howl. So I've got just a bunch of kids just howling, and I'm just like, so I put the silly Snapchat big mouth filter on it and decided I was going to record it, and people thought that was hysterical. So anyway, that reminded me of my children. Your dog did. Yeah. So, but yeah. So anyway,
it's funny. My roommate likes, she likes howling with him when we, when sirens go off or something like that. So
that's funny.
I think I've got him half calmed down right now, but he might start barking again. Just warning you all. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think he's okay right now.
All right. So we'll just kind of circle back. So yeah, hard thing. Hearing things about us can be super hard, and but I think that developing a sense of understanding, like you were saying, that, that's just part of business. It is. But also knowing that I think it's also okay to feel hurt sometimes, because I think if you have this unrealistic expectation that it's never going to hurt, because I mean, I've been in business to some extent for a long time at this point. And, there's still sometimes that it still hurts just the same, and no amount of me saying, oh, I don't care, just let it roll off my back. And most of the time I can. Most of the time I'm just like, I don't care. People are going to say thanks sometimes. Sometimes they're happy. Sometimes they're not. I think that, but still allowing yourself to know, okay, well, maybe for whatever reason, because maybe you tried extra hard on that one, or, whatever it was, that one hurt a little bit more. And I think that's okay too. And, you were talking about guarantees. I mentioned earlier that, I work with a lot of marketers, and one of the things that I tell any client I'm working with is, sometimes they'll say, well, I work with this person, that person. I'm like, that's fine. I'll work with whoever you're working with. But one of the things that I'm adamant about is guarantees. I don't like guarantees, and that's my first red flag with working with somebody is if they're trying to guarantee something that I know that there's not a guarantee for, because it's not like you're going through and ordering a burger and you're guaranteed to get a burger. That's not how that is. It's not how marketing works. Yeah. And I've heard so many people, claiming this guarantee and that guarantee. And, I explain to people, I don't work with people that give guarantees in marketing. And here is why. You can't guarantee marketing. And I use that example. It's not like ordering a burger. It's not like ordering something and you're getting what you're ordering. It works more like the stock market. I use that example a lot with people to try to get them to understand. I equate marketing to like a financial advising, because if you, like, we have a financial advisor, I trust my financial advisor to look at the market and say, okay, well, I'm going to put more of this money over here because this is working like this, and more of this money here because this is working like this. I don't know. That's not my profession. He also cannot guarantee anything because it's the stock market, and the market's ever changing, so like right now, the market is completely different than it was this time last year because of COVID. So, marketing works more like that. It works more like, okay, well, as marketing professionals, we look at, the whole market as a whole, and we say, okay, well, in their industry, this looks like this is performing better. Let's try to put some of their marketing dollars and time and whatever into this, and let's see how that works. And it works more like that. And then you watch it and you say, okay, that's working good, or nah, let's go ahead and try this instead. That's how it works. It doesn't work like, going through and making an order and you're getting your exact order. That'd be great. That would make our job so much easier. I know, but it just doesn't work like that. And, a lot of times explaining it to people like that, it makes more sense because, most people, even if you don't know about financial advising or, the stock market, you at least know that it exists and that it's ever changing. And marketing is exactly the same way. It is ever changing, and there's no guarantees. And that is the first thing that a person should watch out for, is somebody trying to make some type of a marketing guarantee, because they can't. It doesn't exist. It's so true. And, what I've also found as well, and, something that, I just wanted to speak to, something you said earlier, whenever, I've had, the clients who've, been upset with, our work, whether that's the results or lack of results, or it's not meeting their expectations, or, whatever's going on. I usually, of course you can't not feel hurt. You know what I mean? You're going to feel hurt. And so a lot of times I'll just take a little break, so I'll just take a few days to kind of really focus on myself. If I have any other existing client work that I'm doing, continue doing it, but really just take a few days, get away from the business, do other things that you love. I love history. So if we were not quarantined, and if I was having a bad day, I would go to a museum or something, and do things like that. Do things that make you happy, so that you remember, oh yeah, there is more to life than my business. And then this client, important. And then, and so that's just something that I've learned, has helped, because otherwise,
I'll just get stuck in my head and just be like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. This person hates me because, you know, I wasn't able to make them like $100,000 with this Facebook ads campaign or whatever it was. Right.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing I wanted to speak to. And then
I think that's great advice. I mean, I think that as business owner entrepreneurs, I think a lot of us have this false reality that somehow we need to be in our business 24/7. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've shared some of this in the past that I was one of those people. You know, I thought, oh, okay, well, you know, you see it all, you know, the grind and the hustle and, you know, don't stop. And I'm not saying stop. I'm not saying sit back and be lazy. I'm not saying any of that stuff. And yes, owning a business is a lot of work. And yes, you need to give it your all. But you also need to take care of yourself. And I did not do a good job at that for a long time. I almost felt like I was cheating on my business if I didn't work on something. I don't anymore because I burn out. I completely, you know, that's something I've shared on this podcast more than once because it's something I want to hammer into people's heads that are stubborn like I am, is that if you don't go ahead and take that time out, like you said, if you had a bad day, take a couple of days off. That's completely okay. Actually, it's a have to. That's the best thing that you can do for your business in the long run. Doesn't seem like it. You know, it doesn't seem like it at that moment because, I mean, who thinks, oh, I'm going to do the best thing for my business and not do it for 2 days, you know, but in reality, taking care of yourself is the best thing because, you know, burnout is a very real thing, you know, and I'd heard people talk about burnout and I heard people talk about, you know, panic attacks and anxiety and all that kind of stuff. And then I brushed it off. You know, that wasn't something I ever dealt with ever until I did, you know, and that's one of those things that you don't see it coming. I mean, you don't, it's something that kind of just sneaks up on you. And if I had one thing, if I could go back and tell myself one thing, it would be that it's okay to say no. You know, it's okay to take a day off. It's okay to have enough. It's okay to tell that client if, you know, you can go through the bad clients. You're not always going to have, like you said, the great clients. And most of the time you can just, you know, agree to disagree and call it a day. But sometimes you'll get those people that you can tell from the get-go that they're just going to kind of rob you of joy, you know? And I have had, now I have those times where I'm like, listen, I don't think this is a good fit for either of us. You know, I've had to have those conversations and that's also a good thing. It's okay to say, you know what, this is not a fit for either of us because at the end of the day, you know, once you've been through it a couple of times, you can see it coming a mile away and you can, you know, those people that no matter what you do, no matter how good of a job that you do, no matter what, it's never going to be enough. And so if I see that, you know, early on, I just go ahead and say, I don't think this is a fit for either of us. You know, I'll go ahead and finish this up. And, you know, I just cut ties and call it a day, let them out of a contract if they're in it because do I have to let them out of a contract? No. I mean, they're under a contract, but it's in my best interest to let them out of the contract at that point because it's not worth my own joy. It's not worth my own sanity. And it's not worth the fact that I know myself. And, you know, again, I can say, I don't care what they think, but I do, you know, on some level I do. And I don't want to allow that to kind of get under my skin. I'll let that affect me. And it trickles down to your personal life, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was going to say, thank you for saying that because, you know, when you were kind of introducing that topic, I was going to say, you know, you have to save your energy and you have to save your, you know, kind of like yourself. And, you know, when you're in situations like that, because unfortunately, I think that that's how we as business owners can find ourselves in some of those. I think the most similar thing it is to kind of like a toxic work environment. And it's really bad. You know, unfortunately, I had a client last year, which is crazy that it hasn't even been a full year since we stopped working together because it seems like forever ago, thank God. But, you know, I had a client last year who was honest, who was genuinely harassing me. And like, you know, angry emails, angry phone calls, just like all the time. And it was really, really sad because, you know, I actually really believed in the mission of this business and what they were doing in the world. But, you know, it's just like the way that it was being run and the people who were in charge, like I just could not, you know, that it was not a good relationship at all. And so, you know, I learned a lot from that client, just because, you know, while we were working together, I found myself not wanting to work with any other clients because, as I said, this was when my coach told me earlier, you know, that I was afraid to work with other clients because I thought that they were also going to be like harassing me. And
it makes you question yourself. Maybe I'm not good. You know, maybe I'm not doing this good. Maybe because I mean, I've been there. I felt that. You know, I've had times where I've sat in my bedroom, in my bed, crying to my husband, going, "I'm just done. I can't do this. Maybe this is not for me." You know, and he's like, "Because of what? Because one bad person? What about all the happy people?"
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that that's, you know, that's just been something that I've really, you know, like looking back at it and like, you know, when I was coming out of it, you know, because when I was in it, it was just all consuming and it was terrible and I was miserable most days, you know, and then once I got out of that arrangement, it was honestly just it was very liberating. And I was really able to see, you know, like pretty much everything we did, like they would, you know, this client like wasn't implementing what I had suggested. And so, you know, they were blaming me. I was kind of blaming myself. And then, you know, looking back at it, I was like, you know what, they were difficult every single step of the way. And, you know, they weren't allowing me to, you know, to introduce the strategies that they supposedly hired me to introduce for their business. And, you know, if I'm only able to implement like half of a strategy, then it's obviously not going to get results. So, you know, that was a really big realization for me and also helped me realize that in previous client relationships that may not have worked out, you know, there was some kind of disconnect there, whether it was, you know, I wasn't fully using the strategy or whether they weren't fully providing me the information that I needed in order to carry out the strategy, whatever that may be. It just wasn't a good fit. And, you know, what I also realized then, and I think what's been amazing, you know, I've had some amazing client experiences. Now I feel like we've been talking about like bad client experiences.
Well, I think it's important to talk about that because I think not enough people do. I think, you know, we try to, it's like the dirty stain, you know.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. But so, so it's like, I'm glad that we're talking about it, but I also want people to know that like, I also work with people who like, we have a great relationship with one another and like things are wonderful and they make my, you know, like the last few months, the last month for me has actually been really crazy because with everything moving online with, you know, with COVID, I've been getting so many new clients wanting to bring their businesses, bring their marketing online. And so, that's also been a new challenge for me, making sure that I'm taking care of myself. Cause I can tell you that, I have not been, doing as wonderful a job as I wish I could say I was right now. But I'm working on it. It's always a work in progress and just being really intentional with things. So, you know, but over the last few months, you know, I've been able to work with some absolutely amazing clients. And I've also really been able to see, you know, even just in initial talks, like, you know, I feel like I've gotten to the point in my business where, you know, I can gauge how a client, you know, what their outlook is in marketing, right? So even if they don't say like, you know, what are you going to guarantee me? You know, I can kind of sense if they feel like things will be guaranteed, you know, or something, you know, something like that. If they're looking for that, or, you know, if they're, you know, if they're so set on, you know, a specific type of outcome, you know, and unfortunately, with Facebook ads, I feel like there's a lot of information and misinformation out there. And so, you know, sometimes I will get on calls with people who have really unrealistic expectations and, you know, and just knowing that it's okay. Like I don't have to convince them about the reality of Facebook ads. Like it's not my job to convince them that $100 is not going to make them $100,000. Like that's not my job. And I used to think that was my job. Like I used to spend like, you know, I still remember this, like last year I spent like over an hour talking to this one woman about how Facebook ads just simply like $100 just simply wasn't going to sell out her $2,000 ticketed live event.
Yeah.
Like it just wasn't. And she didn't understand that. And I tried to walk her through it for like over an hour. And after I got off that call, I kind of was like, what did I just do to myself? But I really didn't understand until much later that, this isn't my job. My job is to serve the people who are ready to invest in this case, Facebook ads, and because unfortunately there will always be people who just simply aren't ready to invest, or maybe you're not the right fit, and that is perfectly okay. And, it's just like honoring that. And it's not just about honoring yourself, but it's also about honoring the other person and their business. Because I know that, it wouldn't have been beneficial to either of us at that point, to work together in any way, shape, or form, because really, I think that all client relationships should be based on trust. I mean, as a marketer, we are using our clients' investment dollars. And so, they should trust us with that money. And if I ever feel like my client doesn't trust me with, with either their money or their strategy or whatever's going on, then I know that I should probably look into exiting that relationship if it cannot be salvaged. So, I think just so being, just being really intentional about things like that, and really gaining that business sense. And I think that to a certain extent, that is something that comes with experience. But I also do, I do my best in terms of, helping my coaching clients, with those realizations, around their own clients, because it's difficult when you're in the thick of it. And, especially if you've never experienced something like that before, when I had that client, harassing me, I was like, what is going on? Why is this happening? I don't understand. And it was just completely, I never experienced something so unprofessional. It was just, I was appalled.
And that's actually common. I've talked to so many people just personally, and then also just with coaching, that have been in really hard client scenarios like that. Mm-hmm. And, they don't understand why they're having such a hard time, kind of, like you said, you were afraid to take on other clients. But, mm-hmm. the thing that a lot of people don't think about is it's almost like an abusive relationship. So, yes. You almost... You can't think straight when you're in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. It makes you start questioning your own self-worth, your own value. Mm-hmm. And so then you don't want to take on anything else, because why would you want to project your worthlessness onto another person? Yeah. And, it's not until you get out of it that you realize that you almost have almost PTSD from it, because, it does make you question so many things about yourself, and you have to start speaking truth to yourself again and saying, no, that was not a problem with me. And let's say it was, maybe you did make a mistake, maybe, but a mistake's a mistake. Yeah. And that doesn't equate, somebody not being valuable or not worth it or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, that's something that we have to realize, that, you're not always going to make every client happy. Mm-hmm. And if there is an issue, we need to make sure that we nip it in the bud, whether it's a mistake on our end, a mistake on their end, or just, like you said, unprofessional, circumstances that's going on, to be able to say, okay, enough's enough of this, and you teach other people how to treat you, mm-hmm. and that's something that I've heard for a long time that I never listened to for a long time, but it's so true. I mean, you do, mm-hmm. We all have boundaries that we set, and sometimes we're not really good at verbalizing what those boundaries are. So, we have these invisible boundaries that nobody's supposed to ever cross, that people cross all the time, either because they just don't know that they exist, or because they're just jerks and they wouldn't care anyway. And we have to establish what, which people those are. But we also, it's up to us to define those boundaries. So like you mm-hmm. mentioned about, the $100 ads, setting those boundaries to say, that's great. You have $100 that goes towards, marketing. $100, is not enough to be able to get you the results that you're wanting. You're establishing that boundary. Mm-hmm. Because if not, if you was to just go ahead and say, well, I'll try and see what I can do, you're going to be frustrated. They're going to be frustrated. Mm-hmm. That's not, and that's because you went against your own boundary. Yeah. So that's one thing anybody that I work with, that's one thing that early on we established a few things. And one of those is what their boundaries are. And it's funny how many of us don't know. You know, we've never really thought about it and been able to verbalize it. So how can we expect anybody else to not cross them?
Yeah. No, and I think that, you know, one of the things that I've really, that I've started doing in my business over the last few months, that overall has worked out really well, is just being really honest with clients. Because, you know, I think in the past I used to want to, you know, it wasn't that I wasn't being honest, but I would want to break the news to them lightly or gently, or, you know, like, you know, things like that. Like I would say things like, oh, you know, unfortunately, like we just can't, like $100 just isn't gonna bring those results, you know. And but now, you know, now I kind of take just a much more like brutally honest approach, and I'm just like, listen, you're gonna need at least $1,000 to make that even possible, to sell a few tickets. But here's the thing, if your tickets are $2,000, then you just need to sell a few in order to make that money back and then put it back in again. And so it's just really being incredibly upfront and honest with my clients. And, you know, and sometimes like, sometimes they won't like what I have to say, but I would rather that they not like what I have to say and be able to make the decision whether they're going to, you know, take my advice because, you know, they did hire me as their marketing strategist, or whether they're not going to take my advice, and whether they're just going to be like, you know, whether they're going to stop working together, or whether they're going to, you know, try to make things work their way. And see how it goes. So it's really, I feel like, more about empowering both people, like stay empowered, like, you know, be honest, like be truthful, and then allow the client to reciprocate. And if they don't reciprocate, like I recently, just a few weeks ago, I ended a relationship with a client where, you know, they hired me to change, you know, to get them better results within Facebook ads, but they wouldn't let me change their strategy at all. And so I was like, well, if you're not going to let me change anything about the way that you're doing your ads, then there's no way that you're going to get any different results. Like, why would you try to continually do the exact same thing, but want better results? Like, that's just it's not going to get you anywhere. And,
that's common. I can't tell you how many times I run into that.
It really is. And I think that this was really the first time where I dealt with a client like that, where I felt empowered. I felt like, you know what, I am giving them the best advice that I can possibly give them. And if they don't take it, then they're just going to be continually going around this hamster wheel trying to get better results with the same strategy. And it's just not going to work. And someone else can work with them, and that'll be great. And so, you know, for me, it was actually, when I think back to that client, I actually feel very positive things about them. Like, even though, like, you know, they weren't really implementing anything that I tried to get them to implement, it was a much more positive and empowering relationship because I was just able to be so honest with them. So I've really, you know, I've really brought that into my other client relationships. And at the end of the day, like, you know, at least they can say that I was being honest.
Well, and I think that's important. I mean, I know everybody's personality is a little bit different, but, you know, if somebody has something to say to me, I would rather them be super brutally honest, no matter how much it sucks. You know, I want them to be like, wow, you are sucking it up at this, and this, you know, then to kind of dance around the subject. And I did a lot like you did because, you know, you don't want to hurt people's feelings. You know, this is their business. This is their baby, and they're trying, you know, so for the longest time I would try to, you know, kind of sugarcoat it. Well, you're doing this really great, but, you know, and I mean, but they wasn't. It was just a little bit better than the other sucky stuff they were doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't know why I thought that I had to do that, but it was just like I didn't want to be, and I didn't want to be bitchy, you know. And I think that this a lot of times comes back to, again, I always say this disclaimer that I've never been a man, so I have no idea what it's like. Maybe it's the same way for men, but I've never been one, so I can't tell you. But for women, it's almost like we're always afraid that if we are harsh and upfront and brutally honest, then we're bitchy, you know, that it's not just that we're just being, you know, honest and upfront because that's the way they need to hear it. You know, we always have this, well, I want them to think that I'm a bitch, you know? Yeah. So I think that, you know, there was a lot of that for me, just not wanting to look like, you know, I was, you know, bitchy, you know, that, you know, where people whispering, wow, she's moody today, or, you know what I mean? Yeah. That it always circles back to that.
Yeah, no, and I mean, for me, I think that, I definitely struggled with that. I think I was worried that, especially when I started working with a client, that the client would just leave if I was too bitchy to them, you know what I mean? So that was kind of, I was worried about that. But then also I did want to speak to something you said earlier when you said about, you'd rather someone tell you, like, be honest with you and like what's going on. And I think that that's something that, that was one of the most, that's one of the pillars, I guess you can say, that I really stand on in my own coaching practice, because, I will call my clients out on stuff, and, and I tell them in the very beginning of our work together, I'm just like, I'm the kind of coach that is going to call out, if you're doing something that I feel like isn't in your best interest or isn't helping your business growing or is actually getting in your way. And, I'm just going to tell you right now, like, I'm going to be honest with you, because it's your choice whether you're going to take what I tell you and use it and find a solution, or if you're going to continue kind of just being like, oh, well, like, I can't believe she said that, I'm just going to continue wallowing or whatever it is.
Exactly.
And I think it's so important, because I unfortunately personally experienced this with one of my previous coaches, where I was kind of in a 2-month rut. I wasn't really doing anything. I know that sounds terrible, but I'd been working with these 2 retainer clients, and, I'd been talking about growing my business, but I wasn't doing anything to grow my business. And my coach never called me out on it. And then at the very end, like, we literally had, I think, maybe 2 or 3 more sessions left. And, at the very end of our coaching session, I told her, I was like, you know what, I realized that I haven't been putting my all into my business, and I really haven't been marketing my business at all. And then I've just been complaining about how I haven't been getting any new clients. And it's because I'm not putting myself out there. I'm not getting visible. I'm not even reaching out to anybody. And, and she just sat there and she was like, yeah, like, I've really noticed that the last few months. And I was like, well, like, and I didn't say anything, but I was thinking to myself, like, I just stopped. I just paused. I was like speechless. And I was thinking to myself, then why didn't you tell me that? Like, I was just, and so whenever I have a coach now, that's like one of the first things I say. I'm just like, are you the type of person that will call me out if I'm doing something that's hurting my business? Because, I want to make sure, like, I can take it. Like, don't get me wrong, I can take it. Like, I might be a little pissed off in the beginning, like, oh, I can't believe she said that to me. But, then, like, the next day I'll be like, you know what, she's right. I need to really, like, whip myself into shape. So.
And I think most people are like that.
Yeah. And so I would rather be like that and help my client. I'd rather my client be like a little upset at me for like a few hours or a day or 2, and then actually be able to go out there and get results for their business.
I agree. And I think that's something that kind of comes with time. I didn't, set out to be a coach. I fell into coaching accidentally because, you start teaching people things that you wish you had known.
Yeah. Yep. That's not happening.
Because I wasn't ever going to be a coach. My first client was like, hey, can you coach me? I'm like, eh. And I mean, it's funny because I've had a couple of different careers. Like I have my wellness world. I have a wellness company. I've actually been in the wellness world longer than the marketing world. I've done it for 21 years now. So I've been a trainer, and, on the training side, and I'm a nutritionist too. On that side, it was like I had no problem telling people, no, you need to do that. You can do that. You can do this. Nope, you don't need to eat that. Because to me, it was different. And it wasn't until I kind of tied it together and say, well, it's really the same. Yeah. I'm not telling them, no, you don't need to eat that. Or yes, you can do 2 more minutes. But, it's the same. It's perspective of, having somebody to do something or telling somebody to do something that they don't want to hear, and once I kind of tied it together, it started making so much more sense to me, and it actually helped me in my, marketing and business, to be able to help a lot of my clients because, I don't know why I kept that divide, but I did, I mentally kept that divide for the longest time. And then, once I kind of tied that together, I felt like I was able to help them more, just because I was able to not be so scared to call them out, not be so scared to say, no, you need to do it like this, and here's why. And one thing I say a lot is I'm like, obviously it's your business. You don't have to listen to me. But if you don't do it, here's what's probably going to happen. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I tell my clients Oh my gosh, yes. That's like exactly what I tell my clients. I'm just like, this is your choice. Like, it is your choice whether you take my advice or not, but here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I suggest for you. And these are just some things I want you to think about. So I do try to deliver it in a way where they understand, like, they ultimately have the choice. Like, it is their business, but, I think that's great. And I think that that's something that, I just wish, I wish all coaches would do, but unfortunately, I feel like there's some people, and in all industries, like, we've been talking about the marketing industry, like, there's some people in the coaching industry who just, they're in the business of just kind of people pleasing, where, just kind of tell you what you want to hear, like, all those sorts of things. And, it's just kind of, I think that it just comes with some experience. I know, kind of, as I was telling you, whenever I work with a new coach, I always ask them, like, are you willing to call me out on things? Yeah. And usually, I don't think it's not like consciously, but I feel like subconsciously, like, I'll like start doing something in the beginning of our coaching together and like to like test them or whatever. Yeah. And so the ones that actually do call me out on it, I'm just like, yes, I love her. Like, it's just like,
exactly. Well, that's what you need. It's almost having a best friend. You have friends that you can cut your hair like crap and walk out looking like crap. And they're like, yeah, you look great, girl. And then you have your best friends who are like, oh my gosh, why are you wearing that? That's your tribe. That's the people you want.
No, I was actually just talking with my client about that, because she, one of my clients recently wrote me a testimonial and like basically said that, our coaching experience had been like talking with an incredibly close friend. And that just like so honored me. Like, I just felt so honored. And so I reached out to her to, like talk to her about that a little more, just to kind of thank her. And, and that's exactly what she said. She was like, you've been so real with me and like so honest, and like, you never just try. She's like, I feel like so many people, like, when like they think they're being friends with you, it's like, you're fake friends. And then like the people who you're actually really close to. And she was just like, it was great. And so for me, that was just, honestly, that was like probably the best testimonial I've gotten, just because, it made me realize like, like not only like, is this coaching style actually helpful? And like, I think everybody should do it, but B, I'm not coming across as a bitch. Yeah. Like, exactly. Like she's not thinking that I'm a bitch when I'm being really, honest with her and telling her and calling her out. Like, she's thinking, oh, this girl has my back. Like, this is what a real friend would do. And, like, your business coach, I now think that a good business coach should be like a really good friend, like a true friend, not like one of those fake friends who's just like, oh yeah, everything's wonderful, like you look great. But like, like someone who's going to call you out, who's going to actually help you, move toward your goals, because, kind of like we were talking about in the very beginning, especially as marketers, like we can get so distracted by all these like different strategies and stuff like that. And so, there are times where I need a coach or I need an accountability partner to really keep me on track. Exactly. Because like otherwise, smack
your hand to say no over here.
No, exactly. And unfortunately, I think that, there are some coaches who are just enablers. Like, I've worked with, and some of the coaches I've worked with, there were times where, looking back, I would just distract myself with something and they would like support me in that, I mean? They'd be like, yes, and these are some resources to help you do this. And, looking back on it, I was like, well, what did that help me do? Nothing. Like, that wasn't helping my business at all. Like, I don't understand. And so I think, when I sort of started accidentally becoming a coach, when people, when I had a few people, a few women that I met at networking events ask me to like mentor them. That's kind of how I got started coaching. And when I started out, I, just kind of thought to myself, I was like, okay, so if I'm going to be a coach now, like, what do I want to be like my main things, what I mean, like as a coach? And that was definitely one of the things that I like really decided upon was, be able to call my clients out, but do it in a constructive way. Like, like I'm never like, I mean, because it's like, I'm coming from a place of a friend. I'm not telling you, oh, you're doing this, it's terrible because you're a terrible person. Like, no, that's never like, no, not at all. Like, I'm saying like, it's, like, it's like, you're saying like, okay, like you're doing this, let's stop doing that because that's not helping you get to the goal that you have. Or using a recent example, I had a client who recently launched a membership program and, and we got on our call and she was like, I'm really worried that people aren't going to buy. And so I think for the first 20 people who sign up, I'm going to offer them like an hour-long consultation. And I was like, okay, let's think about this. I was like, first of all, do you have enough time in your schedule to handle 20-hour-long calls?
Yeah.
Over like the next month. Yeah, exactly. And, and so it was just kind of, and she was like, you're right. And so I was able to help her really figure out, no, she should not be offering the first 20 people who sign up an hour-long call. And so we really narrowed that down to 5 people for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's still incredibly generous offer for the first 5 people who sign up for, who sign up for a membership program. And, and so for me, that was really something I wanted to make sure that I was able to do with all of my clients, and really make sure that I was able to build that relationship, have that kind of relationship where I can come from a place of still actually caring about their business, actually caring about their results, and give them that constructive criticism and help them actually get to where they want to go, and also help them understand, like, I think when they're getting distracted and when they're not getting distracted. Because I feel like sometimes for me, there were things where I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. This is like the type of business I want to build. But it wasn't really.
Yeah.
And so, I want to be that person for my clients where, I want to question them. I want to kind of challenge them a little bit and see, like, is this really where you want to take your business? Because if you follow this particular idea or this path to its fruition, this is what it's going to look like for you. And is that something that you want? And so anytime that my clients come to me with a new idea or a new, a new offer or whatever, that's what I walk them through that process, because unfortunately, like, I didn't have people walking me through that process. And I've definitely created some like random offers. Like, some of them are still on my website. It's kind of funny. Like some random offers and like programs and like courses, where like, I don't want to, like, my goal in business is not to become a course creator. Like, that's just not me. And it took me a while to realize that, because I didn't really have anybody walking me through that. Like, I didn't have anybody.
You've seen everybody else doing it.
Yeah. And everybody else is doing it, and it looks great for them, and it's working great for them. And, and it really wasn't until I asked myself, after I completed my first course, I created it, I got it out there into the world, and then I was just like, I know I shouldn't be saying this, because like, I still sell the course, and it's great. It is a super valuable course, but it's like, I don't want to just create new courses and market
that's
courses.
That's not who you want to be.
Yeah, like that's not who I want to be. That's not how I want to serve. I want to serve in a more, a high touch kind of way, whether that's with clients one-on-one or in groups. I love group settings. I also love, speaking or going on podcasts, because I feel like, this is where I'm really able to have a conversation and to provide, advice and value to other people in a way that's way more personable than seeing me just like on a screen recording myself talking about something that may or may not be relevant to you and your business. But, you kind of signed up for the course because it had like, the title and the content was something you thought you needed, but like, is it something you actually need,
Well, and a lot of times on that stuff, you're getting, ideal situations. And I think that was for me. I mean, I've tried to be all kinds of people, and, I literally, I joke around all the time that I never really knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I still really don't. I just like hop around from this to that. But I think it's because a lot of entrepreneurs were dreamers, and we know lots of things that we love to do, and we know how most of us are servers too. We're helpers. So, we look at how other people are helping. People are like, oh, that's the great way. That's the way to do it. So we try that. And, sometimes it may be for us, and sometimes it might work out okay that time, but you can tell it's not the right fit. And I've been through lots of not the right fits. And I mean, not only with my business, but even my personal life. I was joking around because where we're all quarantined, I've been going through a bunch of stuff, and I have quilting supplies that I bought years ago because it's like, and I don't know how to quilt. So let's just go back and say that. So, it's like I would buy things for the person that I wanted to be. Maria does not know how to quilt. I never knew how to quilt. I watched like half of a YouTube video, and it's like, but I bought all this stuff because I wanted to be a quilter, just because we want to do something. I mean, I'm all for the be all you can be. But again, it has to align with our personality. It has to align with our life. And I am not patient enough to quilt. I don't know why. I'm not. I like energetic things. I'm not the one that just sits there and no. So I don't even know what I was thinking. But, it's stuff like that you have to sit there and think, yeah, this is great. Courses are great. And I've taught a few of them. And, there's some I still teach when people kind of invite me to be part of their bundle, but that's not my strength because I get distracted really, really easy. And, I can forget about what I was even teaching about and just get off on this. Yeah. Oh, you know what happened?
I do tangents too. Oh my gosh, yes. That's always my problem. And it's like, I always try to add more. Like, I'm just like, oh, but they really need to know this too. And it's
exactly. So then when you're done, you're like, okay, the course was titled this. I don't even know if I mentioned that at all, so I mean, it's not the best thing for me. So typically when I do them now, just in guest spots, I disclaimer myself. I'm like, listen, I'm not a teacher. I can teach a few things, but I also am squirrely. So if I start to squirrel, I apologize in advance because I know that's who I am, and there's benefits to that. I notice lots of things and catch lots of things with my clients that a lot of other people wouldn't. So there's gifts in everything.
For me, this is how I describe myself. And it sounds like it sounds like we're really similar in this. I'm not a teacher, but I'm a leader. Yes. And I think that, that's what I've said. And it's different. There's definitely yes, you definitely do. People learn things from you as a leader, but you're not necessarily teaching them, sitting down, going through the steps, kind of, like a teacher with a lesson plan. Yep. It's very different. So you're leading people somewhere. You're not teaching people something. So, that's something that, it's funny because it's something I've known about myself since college, but I didn't understand how to use it in my business. And, I saw all these people doing courses and I was like, you know what, that's the thing. Apparently to be successful in the online space, you also have to have a course and and so I just, created this course but then I realized, this just isn't how I want to serve people. It doesn't play to my strengths and I need to serve people in a way where I can lead them, where they want to go, not just not where I want to go, but where they want to go, in their business or with their life or whatever I'm helping them with, because that's how we're going to get the best results for them. And that's how I'm going to be able to serve. And that's how I'm going to be able to get the results that I want in my business as well. And so, that's definitely a more recent realization that I've had just within the last few months, probably, but it's already made me feel so much better about my business, and I definitely think it's also helped me with my with my clients, because I know what I'm doing and I can just focus on doing that, and I don't need to when I was creating that course, I spent hours upon hours a week just prepping everything and recording and then re-recording and then doing all these things and then setting up the webpage, and it was just it was just something I just didn't want to spend my time doing that.
No, and I'm the person that I feed off other people too. So I can talk to somebody all day long and I can hear something they say and a lot of times know what to say back. But talking to air, I have the hardest time talking to air because, and it's even like that. When I first got into in college, when I was going to college, I worked for a call center and, I had to, I'm old. So it was when cell phones were first coming out and, we were calling around, cold calling people and selling cell phones. Mm-hmm. I'm great at sales. I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I'm great at sales if I can be face to face with somebody or at least I know them or something, because I can find a reason why they would need it if they need it. But I'm also that person that'll say, you don't need that. And so that was terrible for me to have to call these people. And it was just ridiculous. I hated that. And then whenever I, decided that I was going to get into marketing, which was after years of doing, wellness, personal training and all that. I went to work for a company and that was what they were having everybody do. They were having everybody flipping cold call. You had to log 25 cold calls a day. Yep. And I couldn't do it. And I got called in the office the first week that I was there. And they're like, well, you're not logging your calls. I'm like, that's really funny. That's because I'm not making any calls. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't, and I was like, let me go out. We were selling promotional materials. And I said, just let me go out and talk to businesses. Yeah. And, I did great like that, but I did not do great on the phone. I couldn't do it. Yeah. And, that was the first kind of realization that still I had to do many, many more realizations over my years. But my first realization that the old saying, you can't take a square peg and shove it into a round hole. I was never going to be that type of person, to be able to just randomly cold call somebody. That's not my personality. And I think, like, we look at what everybody else is doing, and I mean, cold calling works for a lot of people. It's not that it's bad and flawed, in of itself. I mean, I'm a big believer in human connection, but there's a lot of people that do great with cold calling. Yeah. So, if that's your thing, fine, rock that thing, but it's not my thing. And I think that's one of the biggest things, especially as marketers, because we were talking about earlier that it's so ever changing. I think a lot of us in that field feel like we have to do everything and we have to do it all amazing and we have to keep up on the top of it because, Google's sending out updates on this, Facebook's sending out updates on this, and it's changing, and what worked yesterday is completely opposite. And, it's crazy. So there's no way that you can stay on top of everything. There's no way that you can do it all. And I think that's the biggest thing to kind of realize. And once you get to that realization to say, okay, here's a few things that I'm going to kind of specialize in, because, people say, well, you're in marketing. Well, yeah, I'm in marketing, but I can't tell you nothing about that because, I can tell you basics, but it changes all the time. Yeah. That's not something that I specialize in, and I think that's a big key.
No, it's so true. I completely agree. I feel like it's just first of all, I agree with you. I'm also not a cold calling person, but I know there's some people who are. Actually, I have a cousin who's doing these elite cold calling. It's crazy. She's lots of money to be had there. Yeah. But it's that's definitely also, not me. But when you're talking about, what you just said, I just think it's so I totally understand what you're saying. And I totally agree with, I totally agree with that. I feel like I was going somewhere and it just left.
That's all right. That happens.
I was going to make a point.
It might come back half the time. Half the time it'll come back to me in the middle of the night. That's what I was going to say.
That's what I was going to say. No, I think it's something along the lines of doing what you're meant to do, doing what your strengths, where your strengths lie, that's where you're going to be able to make the most difference and to serve, to serve the best. And, I want to kind of say, stay in your lane. And, and I think that it's something that I, also kind of, have been realizing, as I move on in business, because in the beginning, I was trying to be everything to all my clients, and I have, I definitely consider myself a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I already have my next 3 businesses, the ideas and the plans are in place. And
there's nothing wrong with being multi-passionate. I am definitely multi-passionate, but that is who I am as a person. Yeah. But there is something to be said for still, I say now, as I've gotten older, I'm a hesitant jumper because I am a jumper. I'll always be a jumper because that's my personality. I work with a lot of people that's not their personality. Their personality is actually the opposite, where they have this great idea and they sit on it forever. And I'm like, why haven't you tried that? Because I'm the person that's this is a halfway, maybe okay idea. And I'm going to try it anyway, because that's just my personality. And it's not that either of them are necessarily bad. It's great to perfect something and really work hard on something. And it's also great to, just go ahead and take a risk. But there's an even medium. There's a gray area that's where you really want to be. And it's, going ahead and finding that zone that you need to be in. And that's been a struggle for me, is just knowing when it's great to take the risk and knowing when I'm just randomly chasing something because why, I don't even know. Because half the time it was just something stupid, and that would have nothing to do, with anything that I wanted to do in my life at all. And for that moment, it just looked like something fun to try, and that, I think those are things that we kind of learn as we go on in life. And I think for a lot of us, we have to make those mistakes. You know, it's almost like, I know you don't have kids, but I have kids, and I'm sure you've at least seen kids, so you'll identify with this somewhat.
Yes, I have seen children.
Okay, that's good. So you'll at least identify
I used to babysit once upon a time.
Okay, well there you go. So then we'll connect on this then. So it's like a child, you know, when they're learning to walk, they're not going to do it great. They're going to fall. They're going to bump their head, and you know, it's just that's just part of learning learning to walk. You know, they're not just going to instantly rise up and just be a perfect walker. And it's the same way with everything that goes on in our life. You know, very, very seldom do you find something that you're just instantly good at. And, you know, and even if you're instantly good, you're not going to be instantly great, you know, and that takes time to kind of figure out, okay, well, am I not good at this just because I haven't practiced enough, or is this just not my thing? And I don't think that's something that you can necessarily teach. I think that's something that you have to kind of learn as you go on.
Oh yeah. No, I totally. And I think that it's funny you mentioned that, because when I first started with social media, that was definitely like kind of, I wasn't planning on that. And, you know, I used to be the kind of person, like I would kind of go on social media, you know, like every so often I would post my status update or whatever. And then, you know, when social media management was like kind of part of my job description as I got into the, you know, the real world and marketing and all those things, you know, when I started with social media and then I started my business, like in the beginning, I didn't really like social media. And then I liked it because, it sounds like so funny, but like, you know, because I could kind of like, I could spend a lot of time online just like researching whatever the hell I wanted while I was at work getting paid for it, and just say I was doing research for social media.
Yeah, well, because everything is research.
Yes.
That's the great part.
So like I loved that part. And then like, you know, and so when I first started my business, like at first I started, you know, doing social media management, and I kind of thought, you know what, this is going to be kind of easy. All I need to do is like, you know, get a few clients, like, you know, get like 6 to 7 clients, and, you know, and then I'll be having like retainer income, and I can just, you know, kind of breeze by, and, you know, cause it doesn't take me that long to create posts and stuff like that. But it wasn't something that I like genuinely enjoyed, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I liked it, like it was cool and all, but like I wasn't like super like passionate about it, or like I wouldn't like wake up like excited to like, you know, go and you know, and write these posts and do this research and all that stuff, because sometimes it takes a while. Like there are times where, you know, I'm researching for like 6 hours just to find like, you know, a week's worth of posts for a single client. And so when I discovered Facebook ads, it was, I mean, I had done Facebook ads, right? But Facebook ads changed so much. When I was first doing Facebook ads, it was kind of like, oh yeah, you know, you boost this post, and then like you do this, and like, you know, and all these things. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like it is now. It wasn't even like it is now just a few years ago. And so when I really started getting into things and learning about, you know, the algorithm and like Facebook ads and like how to do ads manager and like how to target audiences, like it was honestly like this whole other world like opened up. And I realized that I felt like I was really good at it, because I'm pretty evenly split between creative and analytical. Yeah. And so Facebook ads is kind of that perfect combination of the two. And I also do think like there are some Facebook ad strategists out there who are like completely analytical. And I think that a lot of them kind of lose sight of the fact that you're actually targeting and marketing to real live human beings.
Exactly. They're too robotic.
Yeah, exactly. They're too robotic. And so, you know, one of the things that, you know, a lot of marketing agencies will tell you, like, if you're a company, you're going to hire a marketing agency to do Facebook ads for you, they're probably going to start you with a testing package. Totally normal. I do that too. Yeah. A lot of marketing agencies will start you with a testing package that will be a minimum of 90 days. So a minimum of 3 months. It may be 6 months. It may be 9 months. But they're going solely based on numbers. They're not even thinking about like your potential audiences, your clients, all that stuff. Whereas I'm able to essentially do everything that those big agencies are doing in those 3 months or 6 months in a month. Because I'm not just asking myself what the data is telling me. I'm asking myself, what is the data telling me about the individual who may or may not be looking at your ad?
And
what is it telling me about this person?
Right on.
Yeah. And so I think that's, I believe that that's why I've been able to get my clients, like, you know, that's why I've been able to get my clients amazing results. And I think that that's why I love Facebook ads so much, because I'm able to use both sides of my personality and strengths and my brain, or whatever you want to call it. And so that's just where it kind of worked for me and it clicked for me. And so, you know, I was really able to shift my business in that direction. But I think that, you know, for anyone out there who, you know, may be kind of where I used to be, one more point before I go to that point. You know, I also don't see myself doing Facebook ads for the rest of my life. You know, like that's just, like I do eventually want to, you know, have another business and build a new business and do something else, because another thing is, and, you know, it's really interesting. There's some articles you can read about this, like where people are speculating, like, you know, will social media be the same in 5 years? Like, well, no, it won't be, but like, what will it look like? You know? And so there may come a day where, you know, my job, quote unquote, as a Facebook ads manager is completely obsolete, because it's completely all automated. That is fully, that could potentially be something in the future. So that's a whole other thing. But so my point being that, you know, anyone who's out there, if you're feeling like, you know what, like I'm really good at this, or I really like this, or, you know, but I don't want to do it forever, that's okay. Exactly. You know, because I think like there's very few things in my life that I would want to do like forever. You know what I mean? Like for the rest of my life. Like, and
that's what I was saying about just the fact of it's okay to like different things. I want to try different things, because I'm the same way. And I think that's why I like owning my own business, because, you know, if you work for somebody, you do the same job every single day. And I'm not a good employee because of that. I'm not. I admit this about myself. I am not a good employee. I am at the beginning, you know, because it's new and it's exciting, and, you know, but after a while, it's like I don't do well, and then I have to go find something else, because that is my personality. And within my own business, I have the ability to do that, because I can say, okay, we're focusing on this industry, or, hey, we're focusing on this method, or whatever. I can change it all the time. And that's been great for my own personality. That works within my personality. So, you know, changing is okay, as long as you're changing to go within your own personality, or you're changing to go within alignment with what you want your life to look like. And I think that's overall the goal. Yeah. No, and your story just reminded me, like I have one of the women in my mastermind. She, you know, she's in her late 30s, and she actually just left the 9-to-5 world. But, you know, she would always joke that she would hardly ever stay at a job for over a year, because she just always likes doing new things. And she would job hop all the time. Like she said, she's had 14 employers, you know, and she's just in her late 30s. So she's, you know, essentially it's been about like, you know, 15 to 18 years probably since she was in the workforce, and she's like at 14 jobs. And so, you know, I really loved hearing that from her, though, because it just completely changed my perception of like what you could have like in the workforce, you know what I mean? Because I think like for me it was always like, oh my gosh, the 9-to-5, like I have to choose a career, I have to only do this, and then like, you know, and then climb up the ladder, and, you know, and all that stuff. And, you know, that was one of the reasons why I chose to have my own business. But, you know, even if you're, so my point being that whether you're an entrepreneur, you could even do that if you're still in the 9-to-5, you know, and you just kind of want to have a new job every year. Like you can totally do that. And well, it's had a negative perception, you know, on your resume if you had a lot of jobs, but again, but people are trying to make it work. Yeah. I mean, there's ways to do it, because if it goes within your personality and you're just changing jobs because you are that personality that likes to try something new, then go for it, you know?
Yeah. So, yeah. But I felt called to share that, so I thought I would.
Well, if somebody's wanting to find out more about like your agency, or maybe working with you, coaching, where would they go?
Yeah. So my website, JackieKossoff.com, is always there. And that's where I kind of have both marketing and some, you can contact me for coaching as well. I also love Instagram. So I am at Jackie Kossoff _LA. Feel free to reach out. And my Facebook page is also facebook.com/Jackie Kossoff. That's mostly marketing. I mostly do marketing and kind of announcements, I guess you could say, on my Facebook page. And so most of my coaching and other materials is going to be on Instagram and or on the coaching page on my website.
And I'll make sure when this airs, all the links for that will be in the details.
Okay, awesome.
So, and it was great having you on. And I mean, I would enjoy doing another call with you again sometime. And I feel like we've got a lot in common. We have a lot in common, and we can share some more squirrely details about our lives. And so, but so I'll make sure that those links are in the details. So any listeners that are interested in finding out more about Jackie and her agency work or her coaching, then if you need a new tribe, you know where to go. I mean, that's one of the things that I like to say is that, we always talk about our tribe, and we're typically talking about personal tribe, but, we need to be talking about our business tribe too, because I, especially for entrepreneurs, it's critical because it's really hard to talk to your, personal tribe about your business unless they're also entrepreneurs because they don't care or understand.
I totally get
you
that.
need a tribe. You need a tribe, and to be that friend. And a lot of people that I've coached now, even though I'm not coaching them anymore, they've become part of my tribe now because we've, it's becomes an intimate relationship. So you just stay connected.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I also just completely forgot to mention that, I also do have a podcast. So I would love if anyone wants to come over and, hear about Millennial Success Stories, I can also send you the links to that too. Yeah, no, I felt like, our conversation was just flowing. Yeah. It was just kind of like, it was awesome. But yes, I do have a podcast, and the second season is actually just launching. So well, you know what? Well, we probably ought to do a whole another recording because we've already been doing this for a long time. People are going to listen to us talk, but we ought to do a whole nother just about your podcast because that is an interesting subject. So, but thank you.
All right. Well, I'll make sure that the podcast link is within the details as well. So, all righty.
Tell them not today. Swerving on these chickens, cluck out my lane. I'm a boss. Out my way. I just do every little thing that I say. I'm the freaking greatest. I'm the rage they exclamated. LA Times, I stay on page 6. I'm even your favorite's favorite.